Hey you guys, welcome back. Today we are talking about 3 things that you can do if you have a really small deer hunting property, say 10, 20, 30 acres, maybe 40, but 3 things that you can leverage it by using your neighbor's property to your advantage. So in my case, I have 20 acres of hunting land that I bought a few years ago. In the 3 seasons that I've been able to hunt it, I've taken 2 really nice mature bucks off of it. And it goes back to those decisions that I made early on and where I place the bedding, where I place the food, things like that. And that's what we're going to talk about. So the first theme here is build on bedding. Okay. And what I mean by that is in this small parcel environment, I'm assuming that it's, kind of broken, mixed farmland, ag, forested type setting with other various parcel sizes around you. But oftentimes, what these areas are lacking the most is really safe bedding cover. And so, if on your land, your micro parcel, you can have part of a bedding area and you can pick where it goes, and you do that by choosing where you enhance the forest for those bedding features. You want to place that against your neighbor's land where they have the best bedding cover. Now, I know this might be a little bit controversial, and people might say, yeah, Matt, that's a bad idea because now you're putting those deer partially on your neighbor's land, partially on yours. And I get it, I understand that. But again, we're not talking quarter sections here. We're not talking 200 acres. We're talking 10 or 20 acre parcels, 30 or 40 maybe. And so we don't have the luxury of controlling all of that deer's bedding area. I would rather have one large bedding area, partly on my property, partly on my neighbor's, one contiguous bedding that I know a mature buck, a 4 or 5 year old plus type buck would feel comfortable bedding in. Even if it means my neighbor might kill him, that's a very real possibility, or I might get him. But I'd rather have that option, that chance at a buck, a 50-50 chance between me and my neighbor. I'd rather have those odds than no odds at all. Because if I go and mow a perimeter trail around my 20 acres and I put my food up against this neighbor with all the bedding and I try to wedge in a little 5 acre swath of bedding over here, it's not going to work. That 4 or 5+ year old mature buck, he doesn't want to cross through all of these human activity zones. My neighbor's house and yard, my food plot where I'm out there sweating all summer, doing cover crops and YouTube videos. He's not going to want to walk through all that to get to this little 5 acre patch of woods when there's other options in the neighborhood. So the first theme and concept here, how we can leverage our neighbor's property to improve our small property, is to build on that bedding area. Build one large contiguous core bedding area that will attract the type of buck that you're going after. Again, get rid of those perimeter trails. I think they're a bad idea. I know myself in the summertime, I love walking around in the evenings, checking out my property. If there's a mowed trail going around my land, I'm probably going to walk around it. So think about that with yourself. And that's just another human zone that buck has to cross. You're probably going to mow it. Maybe you want to plant clover and you say, well, I'm going to do a food plot trail. Okay, maybe that's a good idea. In some circumstances it might be, but on a micro parcel, probably not. Unless that's your main food plot, then okay. But if you're going to have a separate 1 acre food plot and you want to do a perimeter trail of clover, I mean, you'll be able to see through your property from one side to the other with all these openings in it. So you want to build on bedding and create the type of biome and ecosystem that a mature buck wants to live in the first place, even if that means it's partly on your neighbor's land. So the second theme here is you don't want to lead the deer past danger to get to your food. So think about this. Do some of your neighbors not hunt? Or do they all hunt? Or on one side of you, is it a cattle pasture where there's really no feasible way to hunt it? Or maybe it's, I don't know, anything. You can position your food plot close enough to that human activity area. Maybe it's a neighbor's house and they have a yard and they're out mowing the lawn and their kids are practicing soccer in the yard. You could move that food plot close enough to it so that there isn't the risk of deer coming out of that property by that human activity zone, but yet it's far enough away from it that if they're out having a barbecue one night or they got friends over or they're playing a little country music on the radio, it doesn't clear your plot. It doesn't spook all the deer off of it. So there's kind of a sweet spot there. That's what I've done on my property. Is I've located my food on one side of the property to where I know the neighbor's house is and their yard, and there's some human activity going on there any given night. And it's not so close though that they're going to scare the deer off my plot, but yet it eliminates a lot of deer coming from their house and that human activity area. So that's the second theme, is you want to be using that food in a location where it's safest for the deer to come out of that bedding, come to the food plot, and you're not risking, you're not putting it up in a corner by your neighbor's heavy bedding area where they can just put deer stands, and as those deer come out of the bedding, they get the first shot at them. So something to think about there. Okay, so the third way that you can leverage your neighbor's property to make your micro deer hunting parcel better is to have a really good relationship with your neighbor. So this doesn't mean that you should let them walk on you or take advantage of you. By all means, don't do either of those things. But it does mean that you're approaching your neighbor with respect and being courteous. I work to have a relationship with neighboring parcel owners just because it's the right thing to do as humans, but also because I know that we can all get a lot more done if we're working together, even if we're all hunting the same deer together in the same neighborhood. If we can be courteous and respectful and cordial with one another, we'll sit down and say, hey, I know you're hunting over in this area and I got a food plot here. Let's work together. Let's not be stepping on toes here. We're all going to shoot more deer as a result if we're working together than if we're fighting each other, or if it's a hostile situation. That's probably the worst case scenario, where with a micro parcel or a small parcel, if you and your neighbor are on bad terms, that could just be an absolute death knell for your property. They could make it absolutely miserable for you. So think about that. It takes a little bit of work. You got to cultivate it like any relationship a little bit. But if you have a trusting and respectful relationship with your neighbors, they let you go get deer on their property. I let them go retrieve deer on mine if it happens. We're going to get a lot more done working together that way. I'm lucky I got great neighbors on both sides of me, and we're in touch throughout the year, and I worked on that relationship, like anything. So these are the three ways you can leverage your micro parcel, and things that I have done that have really led to a lot of success and making my 20 acres feel like 40 or 80 acres by doing these three things. So hopefully this helped you guys as you're pondering your property planning. Appreciate you watching the video. Take care, and I will catch you on the next one.